Replacing U-joints in your drive shaft does not have to be difficult. Tilt the vise a little bit, lay the drive shaft down on the workbench. There's many different ways to do this. This is the way I like to do it. I put a large adjustable wrench in. It is adjusted just so it is touching the outside. It is not going to touch or interfere with the U-joint as it comes out. I put a socket on this side and then I just work the vise. See it moving there? And that's it. You can see the cap is out. This one's all the way in. We're going to loosen it up. Everything falls. And now we can continue working on getting that out. Sometimes if the cap is really rusty and it's having a hard time coming out, putting a pair of vice grips on there really tight. There we go. Then if you run into the issue where you're not able to get the cap out, I will push it back in the other way. Use a socket over here. I find that helps a lot. It's just 18 millimeter. It'll fit over, but it will not get stuck in the drive shaft itself. All right, that's it. We got that out. We can set it to the side. Now to get this last cap out. There we go, just need a little bit of a turn. Right in the garbage. The reason I didn't take the yoke off the U-joint first is because I'm not even going to use this yoke. It's honestly garbage because instead of doing the proper thing and getting the yoke that I got, where it's got that counter bore, these people cut it really short so that it wouldn't hit that O-ring that you saw in the last video. Let me show you the difference. Here we are. Instead of getting the drive shaft with the proper counter bore, where the splines don't start until about 2 inches down in there, instead of doing the proper thing, they just cut it super short. Correct way, not correct way. So this is garbage. Alright, so I got both U-joints pulled out of the drive shaft. Inside where the U-joint goes is super dirty, super grimy. So I'm just going to use a little wire brush attachment on the end of my drill. I'm going to stick it in there and get to clean it. Now it's nice and clean in there and ready for our new U-joints. Okay, so I just got the U-joint pressed in. I got a clip on both sides. I'm going to show you guys how to install the U-joint. It's the same process for putting it in here as the yoke. So I'm going to put the yoke on and I'll document that for you guys so you can see how I do it. First step is to take both caps off very carefully. You want to be very gentle with these because you can see there's a bunch of bearings in there, and if one of them falls over, you'll have an issue. So that's why you want to be careful. We're just going to set it aside on a clean surface, and I'm going to take both of these out. I have in the past, when installing a U-joint, I have had one of these bearings fall over, and you see they're not very thick, so you'll be short just that amount, because this end is crushing it at the bottom of the cap, and I cranked down on the vise so hard that it actually shattered the bearing, and I ended up having to get a new U-joint after that. So that's what you want to be careful for. This whole process, you're going to use a little bit of force when you're using a vise, but you shouldn't have to use extreme force. That's when you know something's wrong. But also, just try to keep this from touching anything dirty. Like this is dirty. You don't want any dirt to get on that grease. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up one cap. I'm going to push in by hand, and then I'm going to put this yoke over the U-joint. So we're at this point. I actually stuck the yoke over the U-joint first, and then the cap I pushed in by hand. This far I was able to get it before I'm going to have to start using the vise to press it in a little bit further. So that's what we're going to do now. So we have it set up in the vise. I have the U-joint pushed as far as I can into this cap just to keep any of those bearings from falling over. And I'm going to very carefully just tighten up this vise until that U-joint is flush with the yoke. Just like that. Now I'm going to set the second cap in, and I'm going to move the drive shaft to align the U-joint with the cap. So all I did was move the drive shaft over, effectively pushing the U-joint into the end cap to keep those bearings in place. I'm going to set it down in the vise and clamp it. So I tightened down the vise and we got that cap pressed into the yoke. As you can see, I already have an issue. Look right there, that U-joint is sitting nice. Now look on this side. If I move the drive shaft over, that's as far as the U-joint goes into this cap. That thickness is just about the thickness of one of those bearings, so I suspect one of the bearings fell over in the cap. I'm going to have to push this cap out and fix it. We got the U-joint pulled off, and what do you know? There she is, right down there at the bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this down, grab one of my picks that I got from Harbor Freight. I'm just going to stand it up. There we go. We used our pick to just pick up that bearing and slide it back into place with the rest of them. Now we're going to try a second time to get this cap in place in the drive shaft. An advantage of pushing the U-joint all the way, this cap all the way through instead of just flush like we did before, is that the U-joint itself will stick out further here, and you are able to get the cap on, and those bearings will not fall over. It's less likely that they're going to fall over like this. And now we're able to just crank this down until it's flush. Look at that, it's pushing it back in. And we'll just check. That seal looks good on that side, and it looks good on this side too. So we know we are all set to continue forward with this. We'll let this out of the vise. My favorite way to grab these clips is with some needle nose pliers right on the tip. Then I just squeeze, drop it in, just like that. Now we're going to push the U-joint from the other side until it sits flush and get that second clip in on that side. We used our socket and we just compressed this so the U-joint was pushed in this way. It looks pretty even on both sides, like it should be centered right about now. So we're pretty close, but the cap is not flush enough. Needs to go just a tiny bit more, like just a hair or two. So we'll put it in the vise one more time and give it another crank, and then hopefully we can get that clip in. Now that it looks pretty flush, we're going to drop our second clip in. And look at that, went in no problem. So we got that side in and this side in. When you're compressing it to get that second clip in, this clip might start to bulge out a little bit right here, but that's just fine. No issues with that. You may also notice when you're doing this with new U-joints that the yoke might be really stiff to move left and right, up and down. That's quite all right. It's just because you got all of the bearing clearances are nice and tight and you got all these new clips on. But once this is in the car and the engine is turning this, it's going to be no issue that this is a little stiff. So we just ran into an issue here. This U-joint is nowhere near long enough for this rear end. Let me see if I can show you. If I put this all the way down and all the way towards my side over here, look at this gap. Look at that size difference. It's fit. It's only on this side, it's all the way to the edge. And on this side here is way too short. So I gotta do some research on this rear end and try to figure out what kind of U-joint I need here. Alright, one trip to the parts store later and this is what we got. As you can tell, it's longer. I did some research online. This is 1310 right here. And according to my research, 1310s are 3 1/4 inch long, whereas 1330s are 3 inches and 5/8 long. So I went underneath the car and I measured the yoke on the differential, and it is 3 5/8 long. So this was the U-joint I needed. I called up Napa. This is their part number, UJ353, 1310 to 1330 conversion U-joint. Just to show you that it does fit just right. Wanted to double check before I install this on my drive shaft. Alright, that's it guys. You can see over here and on this side, that 1330 is exactly what we needed. It's a perfect length. And then 1310 goes into the drive shaft. I'm just gonna throw these straps on and I'll be done. That's it for this episode. Thanks for sticking around, guys. I really hope that some of this information will help you with your projects. If you watched this far, please give me a like and a comment down below. And if you really want to be generous, hit that subscribe button. See you guys on the next one.